Well, hello everyone, and thank you for attending my presentation on what you can do to prepare for the modernization of the National Spatial Reference System. My name is Dan Determan. I'm your Northwest Regional Geodetic Advisor, and the Northwest region includes Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. As you can see, I've included my email and phone number. Sorry. There we go. So, accurate maps begin with accurate coordinates. Geodetic control, or the NSRS, is the foundation layer for all geospatial products. The easiest way to think of geodetic control are points with coordinates, and that is soon to be coordinates as a function of time. Without a geodetic control base map layer, GIS applications will not align properly. Geodetic control needs to be more accurate than any survey or map which builds upon it. So the NGS's mission is to define, maintain, and provide access to the NSRS to meet our nation's economic, social, and environmental needs. The components of the NSRS include latitude, longitude, elevation, as well as things like gravity, shoreline positions, and their changes over time. Currently, today's NSRS consists of the North American Datum of 1983, or NAD 83, and the North American Vertical Datum of 1988, or NAVD 88. If you notice the picture here with the layers, in the corners you'll see those discs, or the marks that you see in the ground. Those are passive marks, but that is currently what we use to define today's NSRS. So NAVD 88, or the North American Vertical Datum of 1988, is based on continental scale geodetic leveling. These arithmetric heights tell you which way water will flow. So the NAVD 88 consists of about 800,000 benchmarks connected by about 2.2 million kilometers of leveling observed over a span of over 80 years and all adjusted together. As you might guess, over 80 years, a lot of those marks have moved, whether they be subsiding or rebounding from glacial isostatic rebound, or just moving from the tectonic plates themselves. Those positions and even elevations have changed over those 80 years. And now GPS has come along. So now what we want to do, if you notice the layers on the right, in those corners you'll see continuously operating reference stations, or core stations, which are continuously gathering GPS signals 24/7, 365. So tomorrow's NSRS will include 4 different terrestrial reference frames, including the North American, Caribbean, Pacific, and Marianas terrestrial reference frames are NatRef, CatRef, PatRef, and MatRef 2022. It also includes the North American and Pacific Geopotential Datum of 2022. And as you see the geoid pop up, this is all the gravity that's been collected. And last time I checked, we were up to almost 92% complete. So this is the Federal Register notice that was published on July 4th of 2020. It sets the framework of what NGS required for passive station coordinates to be considered current for the 2022 datum and to be used in the forthcoming transformation tool. It said that there must be 2 consistent GNSS observations on a station, with at least 1 since 2014. So as such, this announcement provided users of the NSRS with notice that passive geodetic control points of interest should be resurveyed for the most accurate representation of geodetic coordinates, including heights. So this is why we've come up with the GPS on Benchmarks program, and this is the what and the why of it. So GPS on Benchmarks is about preparing the country and our communities to take full advantage of the benefits of the modernized NSRS by collecting new GPS observations on benchmarks with published NAVD88 heights. The primary benefits of the GPS on Benchmarks campaign is that you will get 2020.0 reference epic coordinates. The data will be used for the NAVD88 to the NAPGD 2022 transformation tools, and it will build a time series of observations in areas of motion. You see that document on the right, that is your reference epic coordinates data sheet. This next document is your window that shows the transformation tool. And then this next graph shows a time series of a particular mark. The added benefits of providing GPS on benchmarks data, you can use those marks to evaluate gravimetric geoid models. You can check your RTN results. You can update and maintain passive control marks. And you can identify marks suspected of movement. So the GPS on benchmark measurements connect the current and future datums. The relationship between the old and new datums vary by location. GPS on benchmark data is used to measure that relationship. The accuracy of the transformations in any particular place will be directly related to the density of the GPS on benchmarks data available in that area. So in moving from NAVD88 to NAPGD 2022, there will be a shift, a one-time 0 to 2 meter jump in your arithmetric heights. This is due to fixing the biases and tilt in the NAVD88 model. The GPS on benchmarks data is used to measure that shift. So building on the past to prepare for the future. The GPS on benchmarks is about collecting new GPS GNS data on existing NGS marks with published NAVD88 arithmetric heights. It's about building the transformation tool to connect the past and future datums and preparing the country and our communities to take full advantage of the benefits of the modernized NSRS. Again, the benefits for participating: you will improve the local results of the NAVD88 to NAPGD 2022 transformation tool. You will receive 2020.00 reference epic coordinates with the initial release of the modernized system. And you will go 4-dimensional. So not only will you be looking at your latitude, longitude, and elevation components, but you will add the 4th dimension of time. And you will track those changes over time with survey epic coordinates. You can also, as I mentioned, use it to update your passive control status and to check your RTN results. So the 2022 transformation tool campaign, NGS will make a national scale mapping grade transformation tool with the data that we have in the NGS database and shared through Opus. Now we must interpolate over areas with data gaps, and the uncertainties in the transform coordinates will grow larger as the distance from a GPS on benchmark data point increases. The NGS will make, the uncertainties in the transform, so this is a screenshot of our GPS on benchmarks web tool. These cells show 10-kilometer cells where we are requesting GPS on benchmark data. And this shows the gaps between marks on a nationwide scale. So as far as national coverage and local densification goes, the NGS has a national coverage goal of 10-kilometer spacing. That's why we have 10-kilometer hexagons to illustrate this coverage on the map. The priority marks within each hexagon are selected automatically based on their metadata. Once the 10-kilometer goal is reached, the opportunity to densify the model and improve local results is unlocked, and 2-kilometer hexagons appear along with the new priority marks within those hexagons. And if we have time, I'll show you that web page at the end, or that web tool. So hopefully you all know that the deadline for our GPS on benchmarks data submittal has changed. It is now the end of the year, December 31st of 2022. So anything that is sent in by that date will be considered for use in creating the transformation tool. There are two ways to contribute data. One is through the Opus Share My Solution option. This is minimal data. It's one receiver and one 4+ hour observation. It will be used in the modeling, but it's only for existing benchmarks with published arithmetric heights. In other words, they'll have a NAVD88 arithmetric height in the data sheet. And if that's the case, those are the ones we want. So for all marks, results appear as shared solutions. These are not for published geodetic control. They're for existing benchmarks data sheets only, and they will get updated. And then both of these routes of submitting data will be published with 2020.00 reference epoch coordinates in the modernized NSRS. Your other option is to use Opus projects. This is a little more involved. You can submit more data. You can use many receivers. You can submit redundant sessions, and that network will be adjusted by the project manager. These will be used in the modeling. All of the marks will be used, and the published projects will have new data sheets with arithmetric heights. Anything submitted through Opus projects and Blue Booked will be usable for public, and they'll be published and usable for geodetic control. So now moving to State Plane Coordinate System of 2022, or SPCS 2022. There are several previous state plane webinars that Michael Dennis has given. On March 8th of 18, he gave the State Plane Coordinate System history, policy, and future directions. In April of 18, he gave building a state plane coordinate system for the future. In March of 19, he gave an update on SPCS 2022. In May of 19, at the Geospatial Summit, he provided a state plane coordinate system of 2022, making it your way, where he talked about submittals of state identified designs. And then in October of 19, he provided Be a Part of the Change, a guide to customizing state plane for 2022. So many of the things for state plane for 2022 have remained the same. State plane coordinate system is referenced to the 2022 terrestrial reference frames. It's based on the same reference ellipsoid as SPCS 83, which was GRS 80. And then the same 3 conformal projection types were used as SPCS 83 and 27. So those 3 are Lambert conformal conic, transverse Mercator, and oblique Mercator. This is one of Michael Dennis's favorite slides. We love projected coordinate systems. State Plane Coordinate System 2022, making the Earth flat one zone at a time. So the overall characteristics for SPCS 2022 that have changed is that we want to now minimize the distortion at the topographic surface and not the ellipsoid. You have a maximum of up to 3 zones or layers allowed. There's 1 statewide plus 0, 1, or 2 multiple zone layers. Most states will have a total of 2 layers. Many states made requests and proposals. Proposals are for zones designed by the states themselves and can include low distortion projections. And in fact, that's pretty much the only way you get low distortion projections if you produce them yourselves. Anything lower than 1 to 50,000 NGS will not produce. So then NGS will design a statewide zone for every state. Default zones if no input from stakeholders is received. Most with the same zone extents and projection types as SPCS 83. And then NGS will also design zones that are formally requested by the states. So this slide shows the number of farms that we received per state. There were a total of 67 farms from 41 states. There were 36 requests and 31 proposals. As you can see in Idaho, we had 2 farms submitted. So this is the state plane coordinate system of 2022, the number of SPCS 2022 zone layers per state. And it's color coded. Yellow is 1 layer, orange is 2 layers, red is 3 layers. And as you can see, Idaho has 2 layers for the state. Washington, Oregon, my other 2 states both have 3. This is the number of zone layers again, just blown up a little bit. And this also shows the cross hatching, which denotes the 2 states with a single multiple zone layer that provides only partial coverage. So this is the number of zones per state on the layers. As you can see, Idaho has 10 zones on their layer, on their second layer, other than their statewide layer. And then various states have different numbers. Oregon 42, Washington 48. Excuse me, I believe Texas is one of the highest with 56, and then you know, there's several of the smaller states over on the East Coast have just 1. So this is the NGS homepage, and if we have time at the end, I will bring that homepage up and navigate around a little bit to show you where you can find all the different documents, such as the blueprint documents for the new datums. Blueprints 1, 2, and 3. The first one is on geometric coordinates. The second one, geopotential, or the vertical datum. And then the third one is how to use the modernized National Spatial Reference System. And it now includes 4 different use cases within that third, working in the modernized NSRS blueprint document. On the home page, you can go to state plane coordinates on the left. That'll bring up the SPCS homepage, and then there's a lot of different information there. If you see on the left, you can download the design maps. You can convert coordinates. You can look at the state plane policy, the final zones, and as I said, I can show you a little bit more of that on our actual web page if we have time. As I mentioned, this is where you click on that, and then you can go to download the design maps as well as the map data for each state. So this is just an example preliminary SPCS 2022 default design. It's the Idaho South Central Zone, and this is a distortion map showing the distortion across this Central South Zone. And then you see the color coding there. Green is plus or minus 20 parts per million. And then, so it's actually a fairly good design. So the SPCS 2022 zone design status, all designs so far are preliminary. We are beginning, I should say Michael Dennis is beginning to finalize all the designs now. He's compiling and comparing all designs and ensuring they are all consistent and correct. And he's also requesting stakeholder input before he finalizes those designs. He will be soliciting input from stakeholders around mid-year. He will finalize those designs after the stakeholder input, and he will provide preliminary complete parameters now. And I believe those preliminary complete parameters are available on the website as well. So about the timing of it all, this was just included in this design. We're past that stakeholder design submittal date. But this is the important thing. The official release will be with all of the NSRS modernization. We cannot release we can't release it until the NSRS 2022 terrestrial reference frames are out and released. But we can complete the definitions, and they will be available sooner. Other things by the end of 2021 is the guess. We will have machine readable definitions. For example, the WKT2, my apologies. He will put out a SPCS 2022 report. He will modify the NGS algorithms and check those all algorithms as well. So the important stuff, how can surveyors prepare? You will want to research or publish control, because anything pre-1995 will not get new coordinates. Anything older than 1995, if at all possible, you want to go out and reobserve with GPS or GNSS and submit through Opus Shared, or if even better, if you can go through the Opus projects and Blue Book, then you have published geodetic control. You want to use Opus projects to reobserve and process that data. You want to set and occupy real-time network validation stations and run them through Opus. You want to record all of your metadata and decide how you want to store that. And then you want to get familiar with the terms. You want to ask any questions so that you can be ready when the new NSRS is released. How can GIS experts prepare? So you also want to consider how you will store the epoch dates. You want to get your maps into the ITRF 2014 for latitude, longitude, and ellipsoid height changes. You want to download the experimental geoid for elevation changes, which could make a difference to your maps. You also want to get familiar with the terms, ask any questions so that you can be ready for the release. As far as time dependency goes, some data sets will be good with the transformations and others may not, and it will depend on your application of that data. So a big thing is you also want to think about how to document your epochs and dates and all of your metadata. One thing I want to mention with metadata is, you really want to, if you use software, not only do you want to document what software you used, what version, what release, any notes you can take about, specific things that you did or didn't do, you really want to note that if at all possible so that anyone coming behind you can, follow your footsteps. And in the case, in today's case, not only do you want them to be able to follow in your footsteps, but you actually want them to be able to almost follow your keystrokes as far as how you got, submitted, processed, and used the data. So the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed, and this is shows the density of marks that have been submitted through GPS on benchmarks. You can see it's really dense. Wisconsin did a tremendous job last year of getting everybody on board and pretty much getting all of their GPS on benchmarks reobserved just last year. And then you can see it is very unevenly distributed. All right, there you go. That's all I have. If there are any questions, I did want to point out that if you go to this link, www.ngs.noaa.gov/advisors, you will get all of our contact information and what advisor covers what region. And you can do a search on NGS advisors pretty much using any major search engine.